Good afternoon, folks. I am Dr. Charles Freeman. In a previous video, I introduced you to the entrepreneurial tool through the Small Business Administration website on how to build a business plan. Today, I'm taking a very deep and precise dive into your business plan with a formula called Breakeven Analysis. And yes, it does involve algebra. You'd have to use algebra in the real world? Well, guess what? You do today. And if you want to have a successful business plan, this is a calculation I highly recommend that you integrate into your planning phase. So in order to describe this, I have some elements I want. First of all, I want to describe the use of the break-even analysis in layman's terms. Then I want to tell you the formula so that you can see the formula, describe each of the components within the formula, and all the while apply this in a very real business setting. The business setting I've chosen to use is a pizza restaurant. Please keep in mind, your business may have nothing to do with pizza. In fact, it might not even be product related, but the concepts I talk about today can be applied to any business model, service, product, food, you name it, retail, doesn't matter. If you're selling something, you can use this formula to help you plan and forecast variables that you have and decisions you have to make about your business. Let's talk about it in general first. So, break-even analysis. This is a calculation to figure out where you're going to break even with the quantity of units that you sell. Basically to cover all of your costs, where are you at? I know, you know, your goal is not to break even when you're in business. Your goal is to make profit. But if you can imagine getting up to that point where you're able to break even, that's a really critical element because thereafter, you're making profit. So if that's the goal, we really want to understand what it's going to take to meet that particular limit or that break-even point. The formula itself, fairly straightforward. Break-even units equals fixed costs divided by your sales price minus your variable costs. Now, these might be new terms for you, so don't freak out. We're gonna go through these together and give some examples here. As I mentioned, I want to use a pizza restaurant to illustrate my formula here. So in a pizza restaurant, from a fixed cost standpoint, there are some things when I'm running my restaurant for that very first month, I'm going to have to spend money on the same amount of money regardless of how many or how little pizzas, how many or how few pizzas that I sell during that month. One of those elements is the lease for the building. And if I'm renting, I'm leasing, I have a fixed cost that my landlord doesn't care how many I sold or how few I sold. My rent is the same. Along that same line, if I have someone who I've hired onto my staff, like a human resource manager, administration type staff, that person's working with me, for me, they're not directly tied to the production of my pizzas, they're considered a fixed cost. I have insurances that I have to pay for to keep my business running. Again, every month that's gonna come in, I have to pay that. It's a fixed cost. So I take all of my fixed costs as a number, put that together, and that's gonna be the numerator for this equation, the top. Now underneath there, I'm focused now on the variable cost side. Variable costs are all the costs associated with me making my pizzas, each pizza individually, the costs that go into it. So there's a person who's gonna be making the pizza. That's an operations cost. That's a variable. So the more pizzas I make, the more labor I'm going to have. The less pizzas I make, the less labor I should have. So you understand it moves up and down. The quantity of cheese that I have or need, it's going to depend directly on how many pizzas I make during the course of that month. The crust, the vegetables, very controversial, pineapple, right? If that's on your pizza, that all would be considered variable costs. So now I'm gonna get some numbers here to get us going. Let's say my total fixed cost was $2,000. Now, I know that sounds crazy to run a pizza restaurant for an entire month, but let's just say it's $2,000. That's gonna help me with my numbers here. My variable cost, the cost to make every single pizza, right? My labor, my electricity and water, my food costs, all of that all put together per pizza it's gonna be, let's say, $15 per pizza. The last element within this equation is my sales price. If I'm selling my pizzas for $20, that means I take my sales price minus my variable costs. And those of you who've been keeping up with me, that's $20 minus my $15. I have $5 now in the denominator. This is important. That means every pizza I sell, I'm contributing $5 towards covering my fixed costs. So if I take that $2,000 element that I had as my fixed cost, divide it now by the $5 down below, I'm saying I need to sell 400 pizzas within a month in order to break even and cover all of my costs, both my variable costs and my fixed costs. Now that I have the whole number, I have my break-even analysis complete, I can now, if I'm in the planning phase, go back and rethink all of those elements. I can start asking logical questions such as, is it possible for me to sell that many pizzas in the course of a month? If the answer is yes, I can. In fact, I can sell twice that much. I'm on the right track because now I know I'm going to be in profit territory. If I look at it and I say, there's no way I can sell that many pizzas, maybe I go back and look at elements that I had in my fixed cost, elements I had in my variable cost, and see, can I reduce those down at all? And of course, in my complete control is my sales price. Now that sales price might affect the quantity of pizzas that I'm able to sell. So now you have that cost benefit element, you have supply and demand and the effect of price. So guess what? We're really dealing with economics now as well. But you as the business leader, you're going to know your business better than anyone else does. In fact, you need to know it. And by breaking down your elements within what costs you forecast and how you're going to be able to get there, again, you might be able to change those variables. If $20 wasn't enough to cover your variable costs, it doesn't matter what your fixed costs were. So let me give you this equation here. Let's say my sales price was $20 a pizza. And when I calculated all of my variable costs, not even my fixed costs, just my variable costs on the quantity, what it's gonna take to make one pizza, and it comes out to $22. That means every single pizza, taking my sales price 20 minus my variable cost of 22, I'm losing $2 on every single pizza I make. I will never break even, let alone show a profit. So you can see how this application can help you make logic of some of those early decisions, early thought processes you might have in terms of hitting the market with your price and your cost. So hopefully you're able to take this information, apply it to your business model. And if you have any questions along the way, please comment down below. Let's get this discussion started. Hopefully you like what you heard today. If you did, please like and subscribe. Share this like crazy. I look forward to seeing you next time.